Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy, how disability insurance carriers and plans classify job skills. Now, when disability carriers or plans analyze your claim, they aren't going to rely just on that job title or even your description of what it is you did. They're going to classify your work according to categories created by the Department of Labor Dictionary of Occupational Titles, known as the DOT. These categories fall into three very broad levels: unskilled, semi-skilled, and skilled work. Unskilled work requires little or no training, and these jobs are jobs that you can learn in 30 days or less by watching or practicing. Cleaning, sorting, basic assembly, and simple data entry will fall into this category. The second is semi-skilled work, and it involves some training and decision-making, but it doesn't demand specialized education. Examples can include machine operators, certain clerical positions, or even sales associates. There, lastly, is skilled work, and that requires longer training, specialized knowledge, and often a higher level of education or experience. Management, technical, and professional roles normally fall here. And with each of these three categories, there are variations. We generally call this in the Social Security world specific vocational preparation, SVP. So there are different prep levels in each one of these classifications of work. And their vocational carrier evaluators are going to look at your past occupations, look at what you've learned in terms of your education, what classes you may have taken as part of your occupation, what skills you've learned, and they're going to classify the work that you did in the past. They're going to assign it an SVP. And the higher the SVP, the more likely there are going to be transferable skills, certainly from a cognitive standpoint, than from a physical standpoint. So let me give you an example here. Let's say your work has always been unskilled. You are a janitor, you work in a factory. Carriers are going to have a hard time claiming that you have skills you can transfer to another job, either physically, psychiatrically, or cognitively. But if you've been in a skilled role like management, accounting, engineering, law, or medicine, they're going to argue that your knowledge base can easily be used in a new industry or in a new setting. That's transferable skills. And they're going to try to transfer those skills to an occupation that has a specific vocational prep that's consistent with whatever your restrictions and limitations are. They're going to sometimes try to put a round peg in a square hole. It sounds reasonable on paper, but in practice, it's often misleading. Carriers will frequently exaggerate the transferability of skills without accounting for real-world functional limitations that your disability creates. Let's go back to my warehouse manager example. On paper, management looks like a skill that easily transfers to a desk job. But what if you can't sit for more than 20 minutes without pain, and you have to get up and move around and change positions? So you sit, you walk, you might even lie down. How about your medication causing you to be drowsy? Or how about your neuropathy from your back pain that impacts your ability to actually sit there and maybe use foot controls, or, for example, to operate equipment? Or let's say you have a neuropathy in your upper extremities that prevents you from typing or using your hands. In that case, your so-called transferable skills don't actually translate into viable employment. And that's why I think it's really important that you're explaining to your physician your symptoms and your functionality. What are your symptoms? How do they impact your ability to function? Because ultimately the question is, how do those symptoms and functionality impact the question of transferable skills? And I will tell you that the problem I see is that carriers and plans rarely account for these details unless you force them to. They'll run a vocational analysis using a computer program. They'll plug your work history into a program like SkillTran, and that will spit out a list of supposed alternative jobs or occupations that, kind of look feasible on paper, but may be impossible for you in reality. That's why classification is so dangerous. If your past work is misclassified as more skilled than it really is, your claim becomes harder to win because we have to convince them that that misclassification was material and that you only have certain types of transferable skills. If your restrictions and limitations are understated, carriers are going to say that your skills can carry into occupations that you really can't perform. So we've got two things going on here. We've got misclassifying the past work, the specific vocational preparation. We have a problem with what the transferable skills might be. And then we also have a problem with them misconstruing, misunderstanding, misapplying your restrictions and limitations, and then saying, hey, even with these restrictions and limitations, your skills can carry into other occupations that in reality you can't perform. So you can see that those three things are really crucial in the analysis of a claim, particularly at the any occupation stage. Understanding this and anticipating how your work is going to be classified is, in my view, key to preventing your skills from being used against you when we get to the own occupation stage. Got it? Let's take a break.
Are you a professional with questions about your individual disability policy? You need the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. This book gives you a comprehensive understanding of your disability policy, with tips and to-dos that will assist you in submitting a winning disability application. This is one you don't want to miss. For the next 24 hours, we're giving away free copies of the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. Order yours today at disabilityclaimsforprofessionals.com.